You are listening to the Home Service Business Success Show. We have been accelerating the path of success for home service companies since 2011.
So sometimes you work more than others. So it's not everything's always in equilibrium.
We don't have the promise of tomorrow, but you shouldn't live like tomorrow's not going to exist.
Most professional sports, there's a season. Then you need the off season to recover. And if you don't create that in your own game, then you're going to burn out.
You will fall victim to the game that you've designed.
Boom. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Home Service Business Success. I'm a host of yours, Kenny Chapman, along with Chris Crew, my co-host. So pumped to have you. This is actually season 1, episode number 1, brother. We're getting to roll this out, and we are pumped because we have so much passion for the home service industry. We have so much passion for businesses succeeding. And we've been accelerating the path of success since 2011 here at Blue Collar. And we just want to give some strategies. And today, episode 1, it's about pace, not race. Like, how can you succeed without exhausting yourself and your team? And, any of you that have direct reports, like, for a long time, I realized I ran a business where I wasn't exhausted, but everybody else was. And so, kind of going through these things. So Chris, welcome to the show, brother. Stoked to have you, man.
Good to be here. Good to be here, Kenny. Thank you so much. I know it's been a long time in the works, and I actually just posted in social media yesterday as we started recording some preliminary stuff, and I was hesitant to even put this out there. And I just said, timing hasn't been right. Remember that the right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing. And so we talk about this often. I'm excited to talk about this topic specific.
Yes.
Because I know that exhaustion can set in.
Ooh.
And
quick.
And this, Kenny, I used to say this often, like, I can run on the treadmill as fast as that thing runs. I just got to know how long I got to run for. And for some of you, you've never defined the sprint, how far is the sprint? But remember that business ownership is really about your pace, not necessarily trying to win some kind of race. It's at your own pace, the only race you runs against yourself.
Yeah. And I think, when we think about exhaustion and quite now, or quite honestly, at this moment in time, there's a mental health crisis going on, and it's even exacerbated in business ownership and leadership. And I say that maybe because I'm a business owner and a leader. If I'm a frontline team member, I'm going, hey, dude, I'm a tune-up specialist and I'm exhausted. So I think it cuts through everywhere. And one of the things that Chris and I really want you to think about today, though, is the pace, not the race, where everything is just about go, 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 quicker, 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 faster, faster, faster. And at some point, I say this often, you got to slow down and realize you're spinning around in the middle of nowhere on a rock and you're going to die. And people go, oh my God, that's dark, Kenny. Well, the reality is I say things like that to locate myself and to remind myself we're playing a game of life. We happen to choose to play a game of business within this life. And too often when I set up the rules around what other people are doing or trying to, quote, keep up with the Joneses and contracting, I just create massive pain and burnout because I'm not authentically recharging myself of what I want. Now, let's be clear, and I want your thoughts on this. For many years, I would get on the stage and talk about balance. I don't talk about balance as much anymore today. I talk more about harmony. And to your point, because guess what? There's times you're going to be out of balance in this business. We operate in a seasonal business. I don't care if you're plumbing and electrical only. There is some seasonality that comes into this game. So sometimes you work more than others. So it's not everything's always in equilibrium. And I'm not saying to don't seek balance, but I'm saying that looking for that harmony. And that's when I know I'm busting my ass right now. I know I'm going hard, but I'm connected with purpose. I know why I'm doing it. I've got a goal with my family, whatever that is. And that helps avoid that exhaustion and that burnout.
Well, I Kenny, when it comes to balance, I've talked a lot about balance because a lot of people search for it. And the challenge is you're just not going to find it. Like
Mm.
as an owner, entrepreneur, if you're trying to, I understand the concept, work-life balance, right? How do I make everybody happy at home yet still run this business that's funding the home life that we're
Yeah,
living? And so I'd say is
sure.
as an owner or a manager, when you're pouring more into that than you're taking advantage of while you're doing it, it's not going to be balanced. And so I would say that balance is not hard to create. It just takes defining moments, like
Mm.
missing certain things, not
Mm.
making certain things. Where's mom? Where's dad? And they miss those moments. And at some point, the grind, I'm going to call it the grind, air quotes, isn't worth the squeeze anymore, right? Because you can't find that harmony. And what I'm starting to see a lot, Kenny, is business owners that are struggling right here massively. On the surface, everything looks amazing, but internally, they're mentally exhausted, and mental exhaustion and mental fatigue leads to physical ailments. I mean, science has
100%.
proven this, that when you don't take care of your mind, it's hard for you to take care of your body. And so, today in this particular session, we're going to talk about, how can you find a sustainable pace rather than constantly everything being a race. Everything is the race, and everything is about how fast, where can we go, how can we get there? And just remember, we don't have the promise of tomorrow, but you shouldn't live like tomorrow is not going to exist.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. I think, it's that there's an old quote around, like trust God, but tie up the horses. Like,
Yeah.
they're like, so I'm down, like I'm down for my divine path, but I've got to take care of myself. And so, and I, over the last 5 years, mental health and physical health has been such a priority of mine. I said it was a priority of mine for a long time, but it goes to, you want to know somebody's habits, take a look at them. Like, and and guess what we're talking about here too is with the business, there is a balance where you might not be able to make every soccer game. You might not be able to make every family dinner. When I first launched my first drain cleaning business in 94, my family just, it crucifies the word that came to mind. That's a little dramatic, but they were not in alignment with my goals and dreams because I would miss Thanksgiving because I was on call for 4 years straight of just me getting everything. I had another team member 2 years in, so there's these times that you've got to do more, but doing it consciously is what we really want you to think about. And when we look at the pressure, where does the pressure come from? If I'm going to have pressure in my life today, I want to make damn sure that it's because it's pressure that I choose or that is in alignment with my own goals and dreams, my own vision for our companies, for our team members, for our families. And guess what? We're in the human experience. There's going to be pressure. The pain, I think, comes, and don't forget, pain and suffering are two different things. So I'll say the suffering comes if I'm having this pressure because I saw, Jimmy on social media posted that he did 10 million last year and I'm at 6. And damn, I remember when Jimmy was 3 million. And I'm talking about my past life when I was on social media and said I didn't care what people thought and said I had all this confidence. And yet I would see a post and it would wreck me and I would feel like crap about myself, even though I had an amazing life at the time. So
Yeah.
that's what we're talking about, setting your own pace. And, you don't have to go slow, but go at a rate that makes sense to you, your team, your capability, your own training, your coaching, your implementation, all those things, isn't it, brother?
Well, before we identify, okay, I've recognized, guys, like I recognize that I know that I'm getting exhaustion to set in, and that creates fatigue. And fatigue will cause you to get to a point to where you fall out of love with business. You fall out of love with the thing that you fell in love with, which is what attracted you to it. And whether you were attracted to the results that came from running a good business, or you were attracted to the identity that the business gives you. And we see that a lot right now in private equity owners that are selling right now, thinking like, great, I've made it, I checked the box. And then there's no plan. They lose purpose. They lose this. So the opposite of exhaustion, I'm come from the South, man. I was raised in a very religious home. And, something that I'll never forget is idle hands are the devil's playground. And what that means for a business owner, let me reframe that for business owners and managers and operators right now. When you ain't got no purpose and you got nothing to do, you can be pretty destructive to the business.
Yes.
Right. So how do we take from the
Well
opposite
said.
ends, right? And it's this force that's tugging at us. I need to go do, but man, I'm tired. And so why don't we start now, Kenny? Let's just jump in. Like, what are some things that you see as the beginning of exhaustion to set in?
I think when you have so much resistance, I believe that life and business is an energy management game. And when your energy is depleted to where you feel resistance about the very thing that you do and the very reason that you get up to provide for your family. And I don't care if you own the business, you work for the business, what your title is, or any of that, there needs to be an outcome and a reason and a purpose to what you're doing. And I'm not talking about like, oh, this is my dream thing, I'm going to do this forever, depending on where you are in the company. However, what I will say, and I'll speak to owners and top managers for a moment, or leadership in the business, if you don't like what you do, then you are destroying our amazing industry. And what I mean by that is we've had challenges in the help department of, meaning, oh, there's not enough skilled labor. I've heard that and experienced that since April 1st of 94 when I started in this game, right? So this is nothing new. There's just more news outlets and everybody's got, connection in their pocket today. That being said, I've said for years, and I stand by it, there's not a shortage of great help or workers in this industry. There's an overabundance of bad leadership and bad ownership.
Ouch.
And I know that stings some people. And I know because I was a bad owner for a while, meaning that I was just like, I didn't want any part of it. And so I just abdicated everything. And in a later episode, we're going to talk a lot about delegation and different things and your and my relationship at Blue Collar and how, how you came in to become the president. And we had our challenges kind of navigating through the letting go and different things. But where it shows up is when you wake up in the morning and remembering that pain is from the mind. Like, thinking is what creates the suffering. How do I know that? When I go to sleep at night, my suffering ends. I might have a bad dream, but I don't suffer at night because my thinking stops. So I know it's my thinking. So I wake up in the morning hoping to be refreshed, ready to go. And I wake up and go, oh, I've got to go do X, Y, or Z, or this or that, instead of I get to go deal with this. It might be a shit show at the moment. It might be a big challenge, but I get to go deal with this challenge. That's one of the first signs, I think, when you have so much resistance, you don't even want to do what you're here to do.
Well, let's just talk a little bit about this. Like, let's just set the stage. Any race at all, any race. Let's talk about the sureties. Number one, there's a starting line.
Yep.
Number two, there's a finish line. And number three, there's opponents.
Mm-hmm.
Now, not all races are this way, but some even have spectators. So let me rewind that and back that up for everybody, because now we're going to really position this from a business perspective. There's a starting line, a finish line, there's competition, and potentially spectators. And I'm involved in all of this. The moment that you decided to get into the race, You got
Yes.
to ask yourself the question, am I in a race today against everybody else? Like, in other words, why am I even racing? What is the purpose of racing? Well, Chris, I'm trying to race to win. Okay, what's the finish line for you? Like, I think it starts with that, because this is what causes
Yeah.
us to understand why to keep pushing forward and recognize that our eyes are on the prize. And for some, it's a checkbox. For some, it's money. For some, it's, and the end goal is not as important. And we've always said this, Kenny, and we pulled from Dan Sullivan's strategic coach, is who, not how, but not before why. And your why has got to be super important, because that's what, when I start going back to I'm feeling tired, why am I doing this? I'm reinforcing this and asking myself the question, have I signed up for a race and I'm racing against competition that really is just here, but I'm not really racing against them? Imagine if you could, running a race, driving a race, whatever you're racing, and everybody else there is racing, but they're racing against their own time.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about who finishes first. It's about the timeline that I've set for myself. And so that goes back to having goals and plans. And goals and plans can help keep you balanced, to understand
Yeah.
when you're off pace, you're off goal. Okay, well, that's no different than if I have a workout regimen. I'm off pace of my plan. I'm off pace of my goal. And so I feel like a lot of times this is the challenge, Kenny. I feel like the industry as a whole, because we've been through very abundant years as of late. We've
Mm-hmm.
been through some very abundant
Yes.
years in business. And while, there was a small blip of downturn of call volume and things, it just picked right back up. And if you looked at the industry over the last 100 years, we've never seen it as abundant as it is right now. And yet, we look around ourselves and ask ourselves the question, why? Why is everybody racing to be big? It's my opinion, and strictly my opinion, Kenny, that I believe that people are tying self-worth to size of company.
Mm-hmm.
And so now
100%.
we've got to ask, am I trying to grow my business? And this is not a blanket statement for everybody. So please don't, well, that's not my reason, Chris. But I think it starts with understanding, why did you get in business? Number one. Number two, is that reason still the same? Because things change, right, Kenny?
Yes, absolutely they do. Big time. And quick sometimes.
And sometimes if we don't take the opportunity to recognize that things have changed, we're now running a race with rules that don't apply to the game we're running against. So now what happens is you're getting worn out. The plan
Exactly.
was to go to, hey, I wanted to do this and this and this and this, and now things have kind of changed a little bit. And I've always said this at Blue Collar, I reserve the right to change my mind.
That's right.
Like, in the team, often you hear them all the time. It's like, hey, sometimes Chris comes up with crazy ideas. We're going to do this. And so, I believe that goes back to the pressure that's placed upon owners and managers is to grow and to grow fast. Like, that's the
Yeah.
only way to do it. And so for those that did it and did a great job of it, I think, Kenny, it made the Roger Bannister effect become so real for people.
Right. Absolutely.
You've said this in the past as well. Back in 2000, a $12 million business was a big business.
Oh man.
Now
Absolutely.
you can go to virtually any market and find plenty of $10 million businesses, $12 million
Yes.
businesses. So the Roger Bannister effect of one person did it. Oh, well, now others are doing it. And so the challenge that I see with that is that now everybody is in the race that those people are in. That's now the standard in the race that they're in. And that
Yes.
leads to exhaustion. It's just that simple.
It does, and it's interesting because I'm a fan of the Roger Bannister story. Those of you that don't know it, he was the first one to run the 4 minute mile, and then the next, within, I forget the exact statistics, within 3 months 3 more people did it. Within a year, 80 something or some crazy thing, and that it's just the standard. And I think one of the things to be mindful of it when you're looking at the race that you're running, if you're not super clear, to your point, Chris, about what my goals are and my why, because like you said, Dan Sullivan says, who before how, and then we add the yeah, but not before why, because your why. Simon Sinek wrote a book called Start with Why. Like you've got to know the reason of what you're going to go do and why you're going to go do it and where that kind of, where that can show up. And the challenge is now with the transparency and social media and the comparison mindset that is, it's part of the human brain. And I said a long time, it's the most destructive mindset on the planet is the comparative mindset. Then I continue to study the brain, and it's actually how the brain's built. So then if that's the case, then now my goal is to give it the things I want it to compare to. Where before it's just going to go out and it's going to compare to, my God, Chris ran these franchises and he built all these locations, and who am I for him to join my team and for us to run a company together when I never did all that. Like I'm comparing to him rather than comparing to my life and my goal and my dreams, where now what happens is, let's go to the Roger Bannister and go, he's a sprinter that, well, maybe not sprinter, but, running a mile long race. Well, what happens today is somebody goes, oh my gosh, look at that. That dude ran a 4-minute mile. And I'm a swimmer. I'm not even a runner. I'm a swimmer. And I go, oh my God, I've got to go try to run now. I've got to start picking up a sport that's not even my sport. And we start seeing people adding line extensions, and I'm not ready, but I'm going to go into electrical because I saw somebody else bolted it on, or, I'm going to add garage doors because I've seen somebody speak from stage about it. Or it's like, you're not even a sprinter. You don't even run in the race. And yet, so that's where, and again, there's nothing wrong with setting goals. I love seeing success. I love being a part of success. I love celebrating others' success, even when it's what the world calls our competition. I want people to win, period. And so when that 4-minute mile gets run, it's like, damn, that's pretty rad. That's really cool. But I better have the compass within myself now to go, is that what I really want? Or now let me go add this to my business, and all of a sudden my home life is exacerbated and that compounds and it's worse. And the next thing you know, I'm divorced and I'm frustrated. And this is, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, I'm on my third marriage and it's my third and final. But that, it's just one of those where I've been there, I've done those things. And it doesn't mean, hey, listen to me. It means I know what the end result looks like. And I just want to help share. And that's why Chris and I got together to do this podcast, to just help you check in with yourself a little bit. And am I on the track I want? Am I wearing the shoes that I want? Am I running outdoors or indoors? Like there's all kinds of ways you can choose to win. Just to reference Dan again, don't create a game you can't win. Like you get to create the game of your own, even in your own position, you get to do what you want to do with this thing, man.
When I think about pace, I think about having a plan, right? So if I'm thinking about pacing myself, it goes back to, I don't have some funny stories here. It goes back to when I was younger. I'm going to party with the older kids. I had to pace myself because if I tried to go like they were going, I wasn't experienced as they were, right? When I was younger. And so I'd find out I was going night a lot earlier than everybody else, so to speak. And so what does that mean? Let's shift gears now. That means I have to pace myself because I'm not like everybody else. And let me say that again. You're not like you are the only person on the face of the planet just like you. There is not another one, even identical twins. Period. Right? There's enough difference to be different. And so when we look at the race, you've got to step back and go, what pace will I set? Well, that goes back to having a plan. And if I don't have a plan that marks out, and I'm not saying you got to go out 20 years, 30 years, but how about you at least take it a year at a time? Can you take it 12 months at a time and say at the end of 12 months, I would like to do this revenue? But more importantly, why? Why is that the plan? Like what will it get me? Well, it'll get me closer to fill in the blank. Okay, great. Now there's some purpose. Now what you need to do is break that plan down into smaller 12-month plans. Take that plan, break that down now into weekly plans, take that now. And I know this sounds, you've probably heard 1,000 times before. But this is the reason why fatigue sets in, is because the race seems forever,
Yes.
never ending. And so remember, I said this earlier, there's a start, there's a finish, there's the competition, and there's spectators when you look at the race. And so when you're setting the pace for yourself, if you don't pace yourself, the negative effects far outweigh. You can operate in chaos, you can operate in scarcity, you can operate in lack, and all these things only start to deteriorate your internal
Yes.
and how you think about yourself. Now all of a sudden self-image starts to be deteriorated. And the effects of that is now I'm going to start doing other things to try to offset that. And I'm going to say this: if you don't pace yourself, you're setting yourself up for destruction. It's just that simple.
That's really powerful, brother. And I think the reminder for everybody is that you have some more control here than you think. And I think that's where the power comes back, is if I realize that, you know, as Chris so eloquently said, with breaking it down and going by month, and be cautious of your beginner's mind right now that might want to come in and, like to Chris's point, oh, I've heard this before, this is nothing new. Exactly. And most things that work aren't something new. You just need the repetition. You know, Tony Robbins says repetition is the mother of all skill. I need to hear it again. I need to be reminded about it again, because boring is really, really powerful. And boring businesses in the blue collar space are incredibly profitable. And that's why private equity came to town, and so on and so forth. And so I want you, you know, now don't get me wrong, I don't want a boring life. But to Chris's point, and I guess in episode 1, I'm going to reference Dan 3 times, Dan Sullivan. He says there's nothing more dangerous than a bored entrepreneur. And, you know, so as you look at, if you're busy, and you're like, okay, cool, I'm starting to create a little bit of space, I'm not as fatigued anymore, then you go in and meddle. So make sure you're not doing that, but make sure you're following your plan, you're aware of the game that you want to play, because you're setting the tone, and you're the one that, for the rest of the team. And we see it all the time where maybe a GM wants to go faster than an owner does. And so you've also got to make sure that you're conditioning the same, and you're communicating about the training plan, and so on and so forth. And, you know, one of the things, we'll get you out of here in just a minute, but one of the things to keep in mind is, if you think about our business like a professional sport, many of you are sports fans out there, I press you to find a professional sport that doesn't have a season. And you're hard pressed, and maybe some of you'll type in the comments right away and be like, oh, well, this one, okay, cool, I didn't think of that. But when you look at most professional sports, there's a season, whether it's racing or football or basketball or baseball or soccer or what, because you're on point and you're just going, and then you need the off season to recover and to build muscle and to, you know, recoup and all. And if you don't create that in your own game, then you're going to burn out. And that's what we're advocating for you, is because nobody's going to do it for you, you've got to do it for yourself, ladies and gentlemen.
You'll be the victim of the game that you've designed. You will fall victim to the game that you've designed.
Oh, boom.
If you do not take the simple strategies of understanding what the next 12 months, and by the way, this is business, but we're talking personal as well.
Sure.
And Kenny, you know this, in my life, we're always doing something. We don't sit around. I mean, I'm just this weekend, I'll be getting on an airplane to go watch a football game. After that, then we're going to be at our large event. Like, it's like, it just like, I go. I like to do that. But the same is true. There's moments in my personal life where I just simply say, I don't want to travel for a while. I don't want to go anywhere. I want to just enjoy the life that I built at home and not have to go. Because once again, to your point, it's a season. I need time to slow down and relax. The same is true in business. You've got to make sure you take, let's just start strategy. to leave you with this. Number one, start with your 12 months and identify what's going to happen in those 12 months from a business perspective. Look at revenue, look at profit, and look at margins. You can build your plan as detailed as you want. But now what I'm doing is I'm trying to see, and if you've ever heard anybody talk about when people are in marathons, at certain checkpoints, you'll hear saying things like this: they're ahead of pace right now.
Yes.
Or you'll hear things like this: right now, they're 0.2 of a second off pace. And just remember, the pace can be increased and decreased. So it's not about the race. It's 100% about the pace. And when you don't focus on your pace, you got to know your body. You got to know your mind. You got to know when do you need a day off. And if you don't, here's what I'd challenge every business owner, one truck operators, just turn the phones off for a day. Well, Chris, I can't do that. All right, great. Then you're running yourself into destruction.
Yes.
Because you're not going to be around to survive the rest of the next year. So
Right.
you've got to make sure you do that, breaking it down into smaller goals. Same thing is true in your personal life. And make sure that you track your progress. And that goes back to, in business, having a budget, measuring yourself to your budget. What's the daily? What's the weekly? What's the monthly? What's the quarterly? Because that's what will help keep you on pace. And when you're off pace, ask yourself the question, what needs to happen now?
Yes.
And remember that your team is a resource. Don't try to
Massive
tackle it and go
resource.
it alone, right? This is
Absolutely.
the four
good.
by 400, right? Is like pass the baton. There's times
Yes.
where you need to pass the baton in business.
It's so true, man. And and that, to wrap it up, I would just lay down, remember, it's about progress, ladies and gentlemen. It's about progress, not perfection. And so many of us we get so much value from what we do. I'll remind you, everything you're doing, whether you're building as big as you can or as profitable as you can or both, it's for a feeling. That's all you're trying to do, is feel good in there. And so what we're advocating is for you to find strategies to feel good in there, even if things aren't going, if you miss budget for a month. Oh my God, the world's falling. No, I've got some education. Law number 3 in the blue collar success laws: problems hold solutions. So something's wrong, to Chris's point. It's information. Now I get to dive in, and there's actually progress there because now I'm getting feedback. I'm learning, I'm growing, and you get to continue to build on that. So that's what it's all about. Anything in closing here before we get them out of here, episode 1?
It's really this. Success is not really a sprint. And
Right.
the challenge is we've been led to believe that success is I got to get there really fast. It's better to get there than to not make it, dying trying, if that makes sense.
Man.
And so make sure you understand that success truly is a marathon and not a sprint. And that's going to lead you for long-term success. Anybody can be cool and awesome and be a flash in the pan. But if you want to remain sustainable in the industry, you've got to make sure you understand that the audience you choose and the competition you choose, the starting line you choose, and the finish line you choose. At the end of the day, this is all you're making. If you're fatigued and you're tired, stop and ask yourself the question: is it the starting line? Is it the competition? Is it the spectators? Or is it the finish line? I gotta change something here. And there's nothing wrong with moving the finish line, pushing it out, moving it over, changing left, changing right. And the challenge is, Kenny, and this is where I'll close, is people are too worried what others will think because if I publicly come out and said, I'm going to do this, I'll give you an example. I publicly came out and said that Chelsea and I will not retire. We're just going to transfer our life and live on a boat. And you heard me talk about that for the longest time, until when we experienced a couple of extra days in time on a boat, of which my wife was like, can't do this, might get seasick. So I'm like, all right, cool. Things are going to change. I didn't for one second worry that people would be like, why is he changing his mind all of a sudden? Because at the end of the day, I'm not doing what I do for them. I'm doing it for me. I'm doing it for my own true happiness. And so when you get resolved that happiness lies within you, it doesn't lie within the value that others place upon you. You're a super valuable individual. Why? You're the rarest of rare. There's not another one like you. There's
Exactly.
nobody else like you. So you're super valuable. So I want you to recognize that. Increase your self-worth by recognizing that, hey, there's not another one like me. I'm super valuable. I'm rare. Hard to find.
Yes. So true, brother. So true. Thank you everybody for being here. We just do us a favor, do your whole thing, whatever platform you're on, we're going to be everywhere. So whatever platform, like it, subscribe it, do those different things. Let us know what you think. Give us the feedback. We're going to keep rocking. Join us back here, episode 2. Thanks for being here. Make it a better than fantastic day. See you soon.